out as well how our military stacks up in this thing. Jen, I want to read this from Vladimir Putin, who said, quoting here, "This truly unique weapon will strengthen the combat potential of our armed forces, reliably ensure Russia's security in the face of external threats, and will provide food for thought to those who, in the heat of frenzied aggressive rhetoric, try to threaten our country." We know that Vladimir Putin is prone to a bit of bluster, but how dangerous is this Satan-2 missile?
Well, I'd say it's very significant. It's never a good thing when you name a missile after the devil. They call it the Satan-2 for a reason. And the last ICBM that the Russians had relied on was basically developed in 1962, and it carried 3 nuclear warheads. This new ICBM that was tested just yesterday inside Russia with Vladimir Putin watching, it can carry up to a dozen nuclear weapons, and there are indications that it can deliver the Avant-Garde, which is a hypersonic glide vehicle, which would allow it to evade essentially the U.S. missile defense system. So it's very significant, married off this ballistic missile technology that's been around forever, being able to go over the poles, but then have a hypersonic vehicle that can evade U.S. missile defense. That's the significance here. The Pentagon downplaying the test, saying they were warned in advance because, it was part of the New START treaty that they would have to. But just days ago, we reported that the Pentagon had postponed a quarterly Minuteman III ICBM test because they didn't want to add to the tension with Russia. Well, Russia feeling none of those constraints. And I think the symbolic message from Putin is, again, I have nuclear weapons, stay out of Ukraine, and Putin is showing no signs of backing down in Ukraine. And that is what I think has people's attention here.
Yeah.
And that as his conventional forces continue to flail in the east and having pulled back from the capital, as they continue to hit roadblocks and the Ukrainian resistance, you don't know what Vladimir Putin's going to do. And the fact that he flings these nuclear tests and nuclear weapons around really
Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button.
A responsible nuclear power behaves. And that is
for more to come.
And Jen, I
like
wonder
and
if that
comment.
changes our
Well, the
perspective
comments
at
are
all.
off,
I
so
mean, you say
please
that we're afraid
subscribe.
to provoke Putin by
Thank
not
you for
testing
watching.
ours. Do you think that this test will change our perspective and embolden us to be able to say, look, you gave us your food for thought. Here's a little food for thought in return.
There definitely is a lot of messaging going on, and certainly the situation is fluid. We saw today that the president announced $800 million of additional aid, $1.6 billion in the last 2 weeks of lethal military aid. At first, they weren't, the Pentagon said they weren't going to be sending artillery, howitzers, 155 millimeter howitzers, and that kind of heavy armaments. It was mostly defensive weaponry in the beginning. We've seen that shift over recent weeks. The question is if Vladimir Putin uses chemical weapons or
thanks
continues
for
to
watching.
threaten
Smash that
with his
subscribe
nuclear
for
posture
more.
and this kind of signaling to the West, if
Thank you for all my new
need
subscribers.
to be some messaging back to Putin. But
I'll do an introduction video soon.
Say that the message is that the U.S., NATO, others are still going to be sending tons of lethal aid in to help the Ukrainians. That they're
I'm just a small channel now trying to grow, so bear with me.
But again, this is a fluid situation.
I'm not a big YouTuber yet.
That we were told were not possible a few weeks ago have become possible, and nothing seems to be deterring.
Thanks to all our social channels.
You talk about the messaging there, Jen. What
getting
would
the word out.
messaging be? I mean, I know we're talking about more weapons to Ukraine, but if in fact Vladimir Putin were to use chemical weapons and it was confirmed,
again, hit that subscribe
would the
button.
consequences
Thank you.
be much stiffer than we have already seen?
That's what President Biden has said. That's what the Pentagon has said.